and you need to know when to say adios. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Greetings from myself and this spot on my face. What I want to talk about today is growing up. I was kind of reflecting because I realized I'm turning 22 this year. And even though turning 21 is typically the milestone age, typically the coming of age, for me, turning 22 is another step into adulthood. And although I would absolutely love to stay young forever, I've just been thinking about what it is to grow up on an internal level, what it is to mature in your character, in your thinking, in your ways. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what I feel like comes with growing up, comes with maturity, and comes with developing into the better version of yourself. So let's get started. So one thing that to me comes with maturity growing up is knowing how to handle situations. They say that how you respond to things when you're angry is how you really are. In terms of handling situations, I think about things that don't go your way. I think about things that you maybe struggle with. How do you handle those situations? Do you give up? Do you complain about it? Or do you try to turn it into something positive or something to work on? I think a key part of maturing and growing up is knowing when to self-reflect. After a certain age, people are going to stop telling us off, and that's when we need to be able to tell ourselves off. That's when we need to be able to take time out, spend some time with ourselves, and question if we're doing the right thing. At the end of the day, it's always going to be up to us to make a change in our lives. People can give you advice from left, right and center, but if you don't want to change, and if you don't want to do better, and if you don't want to learn, nothing can happen. Nobody can change you from the outside. Even if you're praying for the grace of God to transform your heart, you have to be willing to do the work as well. And so that's why it's important to have that relationship with yourself, so that you're able to see when you're doing something wrong, so that you're able to see, wait, people keep saying this to me, people keep telling me I'm doing this, people keep telling me I sound like this, so that you can hear that and do something with it, as opposed to hearing it thinking, everyone keeps saying this to me, but you know what, it's fine, because nobody can judge me, and it's fine because that's just how I am. That's not just how you are. You haven't yet reached your final form. We all have work to do on ourselves, and one thing that comes with growing up is realizing that you can't just settle with how you are. Of course, love yourself, but if you have a flaw and it's a flaw people keep picking up on you, then it's something you need to work on. As you grow older, you can't afford to keep saying, that's just how I am. Part of that self-reflection is understanding that actually I do have this flaw, I do have this issue I need to work on, and then you need to begin working on it. And that feeds into my next point, which is do not settle. Don't settle in relationships, don't settle for jobs, don't settle for anything. Don't even settle for yourself. If you know you can do better, you need to try and do better. Don't settle. There comes a point in your life where you're going to realize exactly who and what you want in your life, and that allows you to filter who you allow to come into your life, because not everyone is going to be a positive influence, and not everyone is going to be a positive addition onto your life. There are certain people who can come into my life now from my past, and they can't have the same relationship with me that I had with them before, because I'm a new person now, and I know what I want, and I don't want you. It's about learning from your previous mistakes and taking them into account. You know what you did before that went wrong, so why would you do it again? It's about looking at what's happened in your life, and instead of moping about it, instead of saying, I can't believe this happened to me, it's saying, okay, how can I avoid this now? Or how can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? Or what's next? If we think about the past and we complain about the past, we do stay there. But if you instead change your perspective, you transform every mistake and every wrongdoing into a lesson, then that will drive you forward, and it will help to prepare you for future situations, because you know that you can't be in that situation again, and no one can tell you anything because you've been there and now you know how to get out of it. And actually it's through empowering ourselves from our own mistakes and from our own misdemeanors that we're able to help others, and that's another thing that's a part of growing up. I believe that we we don't go through our mistakes, we don't go through our harsh times just to keep that to ourselves. I believe we go through this pain and we go through this uncomfortable time so that we can come out of it and tell people, I went through exactly what you went through, and look at me now. And that's why we have testimonies, and that's why God helps us to get through things. It's so that we can show people His grace, and it's so that we can show people that you're not alone, to give people a source of hope. And that feeds into my next item, which is about relationships. As you grow older, you'll realize that relationships are important, but it's not important to have a relationship with everyone. As I said earlier, not every addition to your life is positive or fruitful, and in fact, not every person who comes into your life is supposed to stay in your life. You will learn to shave off the people who are not for you and who are either pulling you back or who are just being stagnant with you. Who around you is encouraging you? Who around you is propelling you, motivating you? Who around you is helping you to realize what you need to be doing, helping you to realize the wrong that you're doing? Who checks up on you? And if your answer is no one, then you need new friends. Because one thing I've certainly learnt over the past few years is it's not fun to go through things alone, and it's much better to have someone to support you, but someone to support you in the right way. My mum's friend was speaking to her earlier and talking about how it really matters who you tell your stories to, because there are people who just want to hear about your life so they can have gossip. There's people who just want to hear about your life so they can have a story to share over lunch. And there's people who want to hear about your life because they genuinely care about you and they want to help you. Pay attention to how people respond to your issues. Do they fuel it? Do they keep saying, wow, those people are so trash? Or do they say, okay, well, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that? Are they fueling your animosity to the situation, or are they helping you to get out of it, or how to make the best of it? When you are constantly around those kind of people who like gossip and who are not giving you fruitful advice, then you will become like them. And in fact, they will change the way you think about your situation. I know for me, with what I'm going through, there are some people who I will tell and their feedback makes me want to victimize myself and pity myself. And I'll just be thinking, yeah, I'm going through a lot. And then there's other people who I'll tell, they'll give me advice and they'll say, you need to pray against this, and you need to be doing this, that. And that's what I want to hear more. I don't want to go through a situation and be pitying myself. I don't want to go through a situation and dwell on the fact that I'm going through a struggle. I want to go through a situation knowing that I'm learning things on the way and taking up more armor and becoming stronger. And that is about who you're listening to, with the relationships you have around you. Who are you listening to? And what are they telling you? Is it helping you or is it pulling you back? Although I opened up with talking about self-reflection, it is also beneficial to have people who can tell you when you're doing wrong. I find it is far better to have a friend who says to you, you're being a bit stupid right now. That comes hand in hand with the relationships. Make sure that the people you are forming a relationship with are people that you want to keep. As we're getting older, I believe it's going to be harder to make friends. I feel like when you're in school and you're in academic environments, it's a lot easier to make friends, and there's a wealth of people that you can interact with. But once you get into work life and once you start going to your 9 to 5, it's a bit harder to make friends. So these are the years that you make your friends for life, I believe. And you may make a couple of friends after that, but you want to make sure that you have a good foundation of friends around you to help you on this journey to adulthood, to maturity. So now the next thing that contributes to maturity, growing up, it's something that hits home for me. It's something I feel very, very passionate about, and that is controlling your emotions. And a key example of that for me is when you're arguing with someone. When you're arguing with someone, are you ready to just fire everything you hate about them at them? Or are you willing to argue about the issue? It shows great maturity to argue with someone, to be angry at someone, to not attack their personality or character. And what I mean by that is, say you're arguing about a way they spoke to you and they want to defend the way they spoke to you. If on top of that, they begin to spew insults at you and you begin to spew insults at them, firstly, that makes you no better. And secondly, it makes you less likely to want to forgive them. And do you know what's very, very key about that. You're not going to forget those insults. I believe when you're arguing with someone or having a heated discussion, that you do not need to comment on their character. You don't need to comment on something they've gone through. I believe that when you argue with someone or when you have a heated debate with someone, you need to think about how much you value that person and the relationship with that person. Because there's a way to argue that doesn't tarnish the relationship. I believe it's impossible for people to not argue, but I believe there's a way to argue that doesn't attack each other's character. And I believe it shows maturity to argue with someone and to still show respect. If I'm arguing with you and I hear you give an attack on my character, or you bring up something from my past that you know I'm uncomfortable about, I know that I can't trust you from that moment onwards, and I know that the love you have for me isn't genuine. Your emotions dictate how you react to things. That's why it's so important to make sure that when you're reacting to something, you're thinking about, wait, is this right? Will I still be friends with this person after this? Will I still have a boyfriend or girlfriend after this? Pause. And to me, this feeds into knowing when to apologize. If there's anything I've learned, it's that apologizing and admitting you're wrong is so hard. And a lot of us find it hard, maybe because we haven't seen our parents do it. A lot of us might be able to say that our parents have never apologized to us. And sometimes we want to say, I'm sorry, but, or we want to say, I'm sorry if, and those aren't apologies. And I'm not saying this because I'm not guilty of this, but I'm sorry if, and I'm sorry but, those are attempts to justify what you've done, which has clearly offended the other person. That's not what they want to hear. And that's not what you would want to hear. You want to hear, I'm so sorry that, I'm so sorry I. Because sometimes we say things, and this is why controlling your emotions and how you react to things is important, because as I said, it dictates how things come out. And so sometimes we say things that sound harsher than they're meant to, or we do things that look different to what it was supposed to look like. And sometimes people receive things differently to how we put them out. And so what I mean by this is we have to be ready to accept the fact that sometimes we've said something wrong. Sometimes we've done something and it's been interpreted differently. And it's frustrating to hear that you've done something to hurt someone. It's frustrating that what you've done or said has been misinterpreted, but the fact is that it has been misinterpreted. Some people might not find it hard apologizing, but I can say I do. And I can say I have not grown up seeing a lot of apologizing going on. People who have hurt me have not apologized to me. And I believe that has affected the way in which I respond to people. It's something that I'm learning now. It's something that I'm trying to work on now. But that might be a similar thing for you. And what I wanted to bring that into is the fact that we are not our parents. Parents have an amazing job of bringing up the next generation of the planet. And sometimes we grow up seeing things that aren't good, and we see relationships that we do not want in our future. And so I believe a part of growing up is working against being the mother or father that you didn't like seeing. It's growing up against being the person that you didn't like seeing. If you feel like your mum does something wrong, you don't like how she treats your siblings, that's something you take on and you transform that within yourself, and you bring something different to your family. And if you don't like the way your dad spoke to your mum, treated your mum, then you take that and you do something with it so that when you are a father, you're not the same. Older generation might not like seeing us as examples, but we are. And age does not matter. In a lot of cultures, especially African culture, age is number one. I saw a tweet that actually explored the fact that age is so important in Nigerian culture, for example, that even the language doesn't transform by gender in the way Latin-based languages do, like Spanish, Italian, but it does it by age. So certain words change when you're speaking to someone who's older than you, as opposed to how words would change if you're speaking to a male or female. And now, not every Nigerian family or every African family is going to be so obsessed with age and elders and youngers and I'm better than you because I'm older and I'm wiser than you because I'm older. But that is something that some of us may have had to see when we were younger. But I just want to let you know that in spite of your age, or maybe even because of your age, you're still able to be inspiring, because the truth is wisdom knows no age, because wisdom, I believe, comes from experience and understanding. I do not believe it comes with age. You can be old and foolish, but you can be young and wise. I believe a part of growing up is knowing that you are going to be someone's role model. Whether you like it or not, people are going to see you and aspire to be like you. For example, with me in 6th form, in 2nd year, I stopped wearing a bra, and I had about 3 girls come up to me and say, I've stopped wearing a bra too. I did not think I was doing anything. I did not think I was setting an example for people, but I believe that's an example of how, whether it's negative or positive, you can impact people and you can influence people. You don't know who's watching you. You don't know why they're watching. And even though I'm talking about growing up, I don't mean necessarily an age. I know I'm speaking about how I'm about to become 22, but you can grow up in here without growing up externally. So I believe a part of maturity is also being forward thinking. And with this, I mean in terms of your life, what you're doing next. So the maturity you need to adopt when going about your work or your schoolwork is realizing, if I don't get this done, it's not going to get done. That's it. One of the worst things about procrastination is the fact that you can't blame anyone else but yourself. Don't be your own enemy. Get your work done. Because everything we do now, and even though this might sound daunting, but it's true, everything we do now affects our future. If you're in school or high school, 6th form, university, doing an apprenticeship, everything you do now affects your future. Everything you do adds up to the person that you're going to be in the future. That's why it's important to be forward thinking, to think, if I don't do this now, this is going to impact my grade. If I don't do this now, this is going to impact my employee report. Being forward thinking about your life is realizing that what you're doing now is going to affect what you could be doing in 5 years' time. I suppose when you're young, that's when you have the most fun. But at the same time, when you're young, it's when you have the most to be doing, because everything you're doing contributes to the person you're going to become. And that's why you need a balance of work and play, but you also need to realize that if you don't work hard now, you'll be working hard later when you're old. It is far better to work hard now and get it out of the way and then reap the benefits when you're older than to play now and then have to work when you're older. I touched on this earlier in the video where I spoke about denying access to certain people in your life, and I believe that also comes into knowing when to close certain doors. Some people will try to come back into your life when they see that you're doing better. Some people will try to come back into your life if they see that maybe you've slipped back a bit, or some people might just come into your life because they're bored, and they're going to come back into your life expecting you to be the same person, expecting you to still fall for their, expecting you to want them in the same way. And this could be either romantically or platonically, but once you've grown, there comes a point where you need to just, because as I mentioned earlier, some people will be there to pull you back. Some people are sent in our lives to be distractions and tests for us to see what's it going to take for us to crack. What's it going to take for us to fall back into our old self? And a part of your maturity and journey onto growth, you need to know when that's happening. You need to recognize when that's happening. You need to use the tools you've picked up from your previous mistakes, and you need to know when to say adios. Sometimes maturity is about admitting weakness and about knowing when you can and can't handle something. Stepping away from things that you know could pull you back into your past life, pull you back into your old self, into a version of you that you don't want to be. And then when you find the strength, when you feel capable of putting up with that again, sure, you could put yourself in the firing line. Tests may come from left, right and center, but there are situations that you shouldn't put yourself in when you are not ready for it. So that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope I wasn't waffling too much, and I hope you were able to take something away from it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you liked what you saw today. Share it with someone who you think needs to hear this encouragement and advice. Make sure also to comment down below what you want to see from me next, if there's any other advice you want to hear from me. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!